that you tuned in today to learn a little bit about music with me. I am Miss Liz, your host at Plymouth Public Library, and if you notice, today I am holding an instrument. It is called, can you guess? Does anyone know? This is a violin. It originated, supposedly in Italy, but it stems back even before that, but it evolved into the violin, and the Italians are the ones who created this design. If you notice, there are 4 strings on it. If you can you see the 4 strings? 1, 2, 3, 4. And there's the neck, and then the scroll work. It's like the shape of an F. Do you see that? When you hold a violin, you hold it with your chin, like this. And then your hand holds this side, so that way it can move along the neck to play the music. And you do not play with your fingers like a guitar, but it actually has a bow. So I will show you the bow. This is the bow. Do you see that? It is made with horsehair. Isn't that silly? It's made with horsehair, and what you do is you would hold it and you would draw the bow and make some noises with it, some music. I found some very good books at the library about the violin. If you look with me, I will show you. I'm going to set that back in there. I found a few books. This is a nonfiction book about violins that you can read. Check this one out. There is also a couple other books that I grabbed. There's more, but The Bat Boy and His Violin. I thought this was a really neat book. If you like baseball and music, this would be the book for you to read with your mom and dad. And today, I found this book today. I wanted to share this story with you. It's called The Dance of the Violin. And we're going to read that story today, and then we're going to listen to some music. Okay? You ready to read this with me? The Dance of the Violin by Kathy Stinson. Illustrated by Dusan Patricic. From the time he was very young, Joshua loved making music. He drummed on posts. He trumpeted into the cardboard tubes. After his parents found him strumming elastic bands, they bought him a violin. When he played his first song, a twinkling star appeared above his head. When he learned other songs, whole stories poured from his violin. One day, Joshua rushed home from his music lesson. "Mom, Dad, I have to go to Kalamazoo." "What's in Kalamazoo?" "A competition. The winner gets to perform with an orchestra." Imagine me playing with a whole orchestra. Joshua showed his teacher the music he wanted to learn. The teacher shook his head. "This is a very difficult piece, even for adults." "But I love it. It's soft, it's loud, it's fast, and this is your first competition. I hear a story in it about dancers being chased by a bear. A bear! Their ship gets lost at sea. I have to learn this piece." "In that case, Joshua, let's begin." Practicing the tricky fingering made Joshua's hands sore, but he was determined to get it right. He especially liked playing very fast. Pretissimo. Slow down, his teacher said. The metronome helped Joshua play. Adagio. Tick, tock, until, weeks later, he got all the notes just right and was ready to speed up. Tick-tock, tick-tock. The day before the competition, Joshua's parents drove him to Kalamazoo. For 5 long hours, he practiced his music in his head. By the time they arrived at their hotel, Joshua's insides felt the way his violin sounded if the strings were tuned too tight. That night, he dreamt he was on stage and flubbed a switch from the E chord to the G. The audience laughed. Ha 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 ha! Don't worry, his dad said. Everyone gets nervous before a competition. No matter what happens, his mom said, just remember how much you love that music. Waiting for his turn to play, Joshua shifted nervously on his chair. He twiddled a loose thread on his shirt. He wiped his sweaty hands on his sleeves. The music one student played tickled every hair on Joshua's head and vibrated right down to his toes. Another student hit all the right notes, but they hung limp in the air like wet laundry on a clothesline. Next up, Joshua Bell. Joshua walked onto the stage and lifted his violin into position under his chin. He held his bow lightly, but not too lightly. He carefully placed his fingers on the strings. His parents smiled. The judge nodded, and Joshua began to play. Almost right away, scream! A small mistake. Hardly noticeable. He kept going. Then his fingers stumbled. His bow stuttered. The notes wobbled and splat! Out tumbled the dancer, flat on her face. Joshua stopped playing. The judge sighed. The competition was over. Joshua turned to leave the stage. But I'd really like to start over. The judge furrowed his brow. All right. Joshua took a deep breath and let it out. Again, he placed his violin under his chin. Again, he raised his bow. Inside his head, 2 dancers appeared, poised to take their first step. He drew his bow across the strings, and 2 more dancers appeared. Soon the notes spilling from the violin were pushing and pulling a whole room full of dancers, here and there, this way and that. Red skirts swirled and black boots twirled. The dancers flung each other dizzily around and around the room until Joshua felt dizzy too. One final note, one final swoop, and Joshua knew, from every hair on his head to the very tip of his toes, that he had played better than he ever before. His dancers circled around. One winked, one kissed his cheek. Then they lifted Joshua high and high still till he could almost touch the stars. Wasn't that a neat story? And then I have a little secret for you. Did you know that the story that they're talking about is actually true? As far as the person that's in it was a real person, and his name was Joshua Bell. And Joshua Bell is a real-life, world-renowned violinist. And he started playing when he was young. And now he's played for years and years and years, and he's so good. If you keep practicing, you get good also. And we found a little bit of information about Joshua Bell, and the song that he played for this was actually called Lalo's Symphony Español. It is a very difficult piece to play on the violin, and he talks a little bit about it in this video.
The Lalo Symphony Español is one of these great virtuoso masterpieces that actually is not played that often anymore. In the old days, Heifetz it was one of his great vehicles, and every kid learned the Lalo. It was a piece that everyone wanted to play, and audiences love it. It's exciting, and but for some reason, some of these pieces have fallen out of fashion. So I'm happy to be able to play this piece this week. I've been playing it since I was 11 years old. It was one of the first big pieces I learned, and it has great character, and it's in 5 movements, which is unusual, 5 shorter movements rather than the 3 traditional concerto movements, and it always goes over well with the audience, and I love playing it.
He is a fantastic violinist. I hope that you can check him out on the web. You'll see the address on there. Also, did you know that there is a local violinist here? There's actually a school called the Suzuki School of Music, and I got to go there and see Miss Abby, who teaches violin and cello. Here, why don't you get to meet her too?
Hello, I'm Miss Abby. I teach at Suzuki Music School of Michiana. We have a Granger branch and a Plymouth branch, so I actually teach at the Plymouth branch. And I teach violin and cello, and I have those instruments here with me today. I'm going to show you a little bit on the violin though today. So we have a bow, and we have a violin. And the violin has 4 strings, and the bow has horsehair on it. So those horsehairs, you play them on the string, and they make sound. So I'm going to play a little something I think you might know. If you get to learn how to play the violin, you can play something a little faster. a wonderful day. In our Suzuki program, we teach a sound beginnings class, which is from 0 to 3. So we play instruments like the xylophone, the glockenspiel. And then we also have a 3 to 5 class where we use rhythm sticks and wood blocks and a whole bunch of other things. And then students can actually learn to play the violin and the cello starting at age 3 all the way up through 18 through our program. So I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for listening, and see you next time.
Oh, well, thank you, Miss Abby. Wasn't she wonderful? I hope that you get excited about the violin. And there's some information about the Suzuki School of Music on there if you're interested in contacting them to do violin or cello lessons, or their little music class for their little kids there that she talked about. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me with the Little Movers and Shakers, and I will see you next week. Goodbye.